Okay, my next question actually comes from a space that we've not been speaking about. Uh, as people who love to know, we are very proud of our intellect. Uh, we we put in a lot of effort to know, whether it's through books or people or internet or wherever. And once we know, there's this initial part where you like to show it off. Look, I know this, I know that. Or I don't know if it has happened to you, but sometimes it has happened when we are sitting 3 or 4 people having a very highly intellectual conversation. You feel like, okay, I am contributing to the betterment of the world with my knowledge or stuff like that. I've had many like those, like you're like, I know this, I know this, I have a point of view and all kinds of things. Cut to the part where you didn't know what you wanted. In those nights where you have no clue whether you want to study, you want to marry, you want to go back to your parents, or you don't want to go to anyone. You just don't know, which is like a state of fog. You really don't know what you want. And it makes you feel very, very vulnerable. It's difficult to talk about it, but I'll just talk about some part of it which happened because I failed. Till I failed, I didn't know academics could be taken less seriously. I just didn't know. Even when I failed, I think on the day I failed, my parents don't know this, I couldn't stop laughing. I could not stop laughing. I had to go to a friend's house and say, please make me serious. He said, what are you laughing about? I think just today is the first time in so many years I relook and I think it was relief. It doesn't matter anymore. I have failed. Now, whatever the worst is has already happened. Now, whoever thinks whatever of me, I do not care. Today I am comprehending it like that. Till date, honestly, is now 1998 or 9 or something like that. And now, it never occurred to me why I was laughing. But today I kind of understand it was relief. And after that, that 1 year that went by is the happiest part of my student life. Happiest. I studied whatever I could. I had decided that I would pass again. Engineering, failure is not as bad in engineering as it is elsewhere perhaps, because engineers keep getting KT or failing all the time. But I decided I would pass and I worked very hard. But before that, while dealing with those subjects which I hated and I didn't want to be an engineer, I just didn't know better. I just didn't know better. My family decided my brother was an engineer, so you become an engineer and you both will do business. Yeah, okay. So I didn't know any better. And it's not that they wanted the worst for me. They wanted the best for me because my brother was reasonably good at studying and he is an engineer in terms of the mindset that is required. And I wasn't. And I didn't know. And I didn't know and nobody knew. And so much so that the first time I got paid for writing, I was again laughing hysterically on the streets because I just didn't know how to react. Who pays for this? So things like those have happened to me. Today it is kind of all making sense because I'm re-looking at myself and I think you feel choked that this could have been told to that young guy and he would have been so much more happier, that he could have chosen, like you said. So I want you first to answer me about that time of not knowing as a person who actually likes knowledge. Can you tell us whatever you feel like? It's just a bit of sharing.
Sure. I think firstly, that was a beautiful sharing that you just did with me. Yeah, I really enjoyed listening to you and your parts. So I think you are very much right. There is this constant, when you know something, there's this constant pressure of always knowing or always having, an opinion about things or contributing to discussions or whatsoever. But when I had this kind of a phase, and it was not just once, multiple times it has happened. Then you don't, yeah, and now I can accept it because I've gone through the process and I'm okay with, even if something happens again to me and I don't know how to take that leap of faith or where to move from here. So I'll accept it. That's the first thing now I do, because I know that's how it works. But at that time it was a lot of pressure. I was so afraid to accept to myself, leave anybody else alone, but to myself, that okay, Sumati, you just can't go beyond this right now. You cannot fight for the opportunities that you've been wanting to since last 1 year because of so and so situation, and because there was this constant pressure of even going and confronting this to parents, that I cannot focus on this part of my professional career right now, and I want to I don't know, like I don't know how will I come out of this, or how will I even, where will I go, kya career hoga kya nahi hoga, wo nahi pata था कि किस लाइन में भी जाना है. Even not just about that phase, but in general, there was a time when I didn't go professionally where I want to go, what am I good at, and there's this constant pressure that you have graduated from that college and you are supposed to know. So there's this attachment that just runs with you. And but once I accepted, and it took me a lot of time. It took me literally, an year to accept that okay, Sumati, it's fine. It's fine to not be, to not take that same mainstream path. Okay, this after this and that after that. So it's fine. You can just leave that aside. And once I did that, it helped me feel so much free. I actually felt it within myself that after a point of time, I was not operating from the place of fear. So this people pleasing thing that I think is there in most of us, it's somehow there because of our societal system and how we grow up. And in Indian families, you're taught, yeah, अच्छा ऐसे बात करना है, वैसे रहना है, ऐसा ही करना है. So this I consciously learned that okay, I have this in myself too. I'm saying yes to everything. I'm saying yes to this, but even if I don't want it or I don't know how to go about it. So firstly, I started realizing those patterns in my own behavior, and then I started saying no to my family, that I cannot take this career, no to other people, even in job, that I cannot take this much of pressure, something that you were talking about earlier. But once you do that, once you release yourself from those expectations, once I did that, it helped me see more clearly what I wanted. So that thing that I was talking to you about earlier, that you have to define your own success or own path, whatever you want to name it. Success is just a common name that we use. But after that, now I'm more free, I'm more objective, and I know that I would be influenced in some or the other way, but the influence is now less. And that helps me remain more at peace. Earlier, there was a constant pressure of doing this and that, and living up to those expectations. But now I can take care of it. I think that's what it does when you come out of a phase like this, where you don't know what to do, and then you set your own bars.
Okay. Just because we are talking structure and knowledge, I want to kind of bring this up because I would want to tag students or send it to people who are young right now, who are in the middle of trying to be something that they are not, or maybe they are forced to without knowing. I'll try and share it in that space as well. I want to bring this up. So the first part would be acknowledgement that you're not good at what you're doing at that point of time. It's not cast in stone. It can change. Maybe you can come back to the same subject later with more love and passion for it on your own and rework on it. The second part is definitely give yourself time. There is no defined time or space to come out of it. Sheerly because the pressure might be different for different kinds of people. Your inner health might need more of you, and try and do things which are different branches of knowledge, maybe not necessarily connected to the problem at that point of time, like you did painting or yoga, any other way of finding your way out, because that puts less pressure and you can do whatever you want. There is no reaching out and figuring out something. You're just in the process. Once you come out of it, the light will come on its own. Whatever clarity has to happen will happen. And also have the self-belief that your journey is enough. You need not come out thinking, this is a personal thing that I have felt, that we are always waiting for that hurrah moment. Oh, I got it. It will not always be like that. Sometimes it's far too subtle. It might just be a little inkling of, oh, perhaps this is what I want. Like when I want to give an example. When I learned about copywriting, I didn't know that people wrote ads, although we were watching them, but I didn't know. And in my entire circle, even after 1 year of me doing a job, I could not share my highs or lows with them. That I cracked this line or this. They all thought I was a calligrapher. That oh, writing karta hai tu mane, oh, handwriting achhi. They just didn't know that this branch existed because of the place that I came from. But I didn't hold back because the inner light was so strong. In fact, I also want to bring it on record that I worked so hard that I felt sick. I worked for 18 hours a day because I just loved it. I just did not know when to eat, what to do, because it just filled me up. Like all the years of pain were worth it because of that 1 year of understanding a new branch of knowledge which kind of matched mine. And every day you got to do a new thing, and whatever joy that one gets out of the creative process. So that's the third part. You have to give yourself time. You will find what has to find you at some point. And the last is you still do not need to have answers to everything. The process remains the same. That it might actually go back to zero and you may realize I am as clueless as before, that you are just feeling happier. But one of the things that I keep telling a lot of people that speak to me, that the journey is about happiness. It's not about reaching somewhere. If we are unhappy in reaching somewhere, and if God forbid that turns out to be the last day of our lives or whatever, then we are unhappy. How does it matter that we were trying to reach or we reached somewhere? It is not that we are less serious, it's just that we are more capable of engaging with that moment or whatever it brings up. So in my head, whatever you've been describing so far is more or less broken into these few twists and turns that one has to engage with. One little thing that I want to ask you, because you were about to get into that zone, I want to cover that part that I interrupted you earlier with. You spoke about what I call ambience. You could call environment of learning or whatever. What is it that you particularly do to bring peace to yourself and whoever you are selling that idea to, whether the student, whether the parent or other teachers or the government, whoever you are engaging with at that moment? What is it that Sumati does to ensure that that kind of ambience is being created? Is there any importance to that fact, or uh, how does it work according to you?
Okay. So to answer this question, I think it's a very simple answer to me, because I just try to remain honest to myself. So that's an answer, because I remember earlier, as I told you earlier, when I used to do work, and when I used to even work on various projects, it was highly influenced. But now the things that I take, the projects, the kind of projects I work on, I make, so there is this concept now. I don't even have to think about it, because it's just there in my system, that I do things that I believe in. That okay, if I am if, like, in my last organization, I was working as a program specialist training counseling. I was working with third year students in Mumbai. The students, or whatever I was teaching them or whatever I was counseling them about, I myself had to believe in that idea. And once I did that, so I could clearly see the distinction, that there were some topics that you have to do because there is a requirement, there is a market requirement for that topic. And when I do that, okay, I can do that out of my own efficiency and skill that I have, but then there was a difference in something that I'm delivering, and I'm also believing in that idea. So I think if I do something that I'm truly believing in, and I am honest with myself, I can see clearly that okay, I'm how much influenced I am, and am I being objective about it, then I'm going to sell that idea. That much confidence is something that I have now over the period of time. So that's it. I mean, to answer your question, that's the only
Thank you.
answer. And just to, I wanted to add 2 points in your last part, in your second last part, where you
Hmm.
summarized the whole discussion. So I think the part where you said that, firstly, students or anybody, they have to first accept the failure, that okay, this is something that's going on. And something that helped me per se to accept that was when I was in one of the colleges in Ahmedabad. I'm in Ahmedabad, so they did this practice with us. The professor over there, this is called a privilege activity. Okay, and what they really do in that, I'm just gonna uh, put it in a, I'm just going to summarize it. So the idea of that activity is, if you and I are there and we both are participants in that activity, there'll be certain vulnerable questions, there'll be set of vulnerable questions that'll be asked to both of us, and that will kind of help us realize and see more clearly that your journey, even if we both are of the same age, even if we both are today standing in the same campus, our journeys would have been very, very different from each other. You would have probably grown up in a family where everybody would have spoken English, or you would have grown up in a city like environment, whereas I would have come from a completely different background, but today we're still standing on the same space. So that helped me see that everybody has an individual journey, and that starts from the beginning, like from a very early stage of life itself. And even though intellectually we know it, but we don't really sit and think about it. So once everyone starts doing that okay, before I start to jump into that rat race or start competing, so I ask myself, who am I competing with? Can I really compete the whole journey that this person is having in the journey that I had? And the answer just comes to me that no, you cannot. Right? So that helps me make peace with it. Then okay, then why to fight? Why to not accept? Just accept that this is your reality and it can't be same. So I think this is something that worked for me. And this second idea, which is the happiness, the idea of happiness. So because I'm very much interested in the idea of the subject of happiness, because now it's a full topic for study for many of the psychologists, especially in US. So there is this interesting person, Sean Acker. He is an author as well. He talks about it. Happiness has got so much to do from how you respond to situations. So I realized that when I started enjoying or being in the process, when I paint, or when I just simply journal, or just sitting in the train and observing outside and not looking at my phone, there's a sense of joy. And it's very subtle that I'm only able to feel it when I'm more observant in that whole process. And happiness is just there. It doesn't come to me personally, it doesn't come in a lot of big deals or big buckets ki acha ye hua wo hua, वैसा नहीं होता है. And I think that has slowed me down a bit. I don't know if it's a good thing or not at this stage, but yeah. So yeah, that's
Lovely, because one of the questions that I meant to ask you was about my friends' kids are now in their above their teens. Actually, they are working individuals. Some of them, they still talk about fears and doubts. This channel was supposed to actually cater to them. Luckily or unluckily, most of my friends have responded, and I have managed to get guests only who are known to me in some manner or come to me from different points of view. But a generation gap is definitely there. And having said that, I realize the humanity of what each guest lands up speaking about, including what we've spoken about. The one thing is that it is okay, it is academically loaded because your background is academic. I land up asking those kind of questions. Somebody else may come from a different background. I may ask different kinds of questions, but I'm more interested in that mind space because that is truly a like free of all our encumbrings, that male, female, this background, that background. Like the exercises that you shared are so wonderful. Like if one were to just be with oneself for a little while, initially it might not seem as comfortable as you spoke about it, but I think one starts gathering things and you start liking yourself a little more. Uh, Maybe in a way, helping us calm down during our anxious moments or when we don't feel enough.
definitely.
Uh, what a wonderful sharing this has been. I'm actually quite greedy. I would want to ask more, but there are so many things you have triggered within that I would want to just be with for a while and assimilate and let them do their own trick on me. Thank you, Sumati. True to your name, you've shared such wonderful thoughts and very honest outpouring, if I were to call it that. Uh, Thank you so much. I'm glad we
Thank
had
you
this
so
chat.
much. Yeah, and for me, it was really a pleasure to be here because even I got while talking about things and having your triggering questions, I went back to a lot of things that I hadn't gone in a while. So thank you so much for having me, and I had a good time. Really. Yeah.
See you around. Bye.
See.